Hola everyone! Welcome back to the podcast. So for this episode, we will be yet again joined by another guest. So this guest is actually one of my dear friends, and at the same time for this episode's topic, we will be talking about dealing with the fear of failure, employee to self-employed. She graduated with a degree in fine arts and is currently in grad school taking up masters in communication. She shifted from being a corporate employee to now owning her own online business during the pandemic that caters to both international and local clients. On her free time, she works as a live streamer and continues to building her businesses with the goal of creating more jobs and blessing Filipinos financially, especially during these trying times. So please meet Dyan Francisco.
Yes! Thank you so much, me.
You're welcome,
Namiss kita.
sis. For the first question, what led you to being a corporate employee to having your own business or being self-employed?
So, for our dear viewers, I moved on from the corporate world to like my freelancing experience or being an entrepreneur myself noong October 2020. So I really felt a leading for me to move on from being a corporate employee to becoming a freelancer. Kasi nung nagsimula yung pandemic, the world started to close. We were parang evicted from the office. Grabe naman evicted. But we were told that we will start working from home. And we thought that it was just gonna be a month max. When we were in that situation, we thought that it was gonna be very temporary, very short, diba? I mean, until now, we're still hoping that it's temporary. At that point in time, there were a lot of changes that happened, and they were big changes. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. Na those were very monumental and life-changing experiences for us, diba? Imagine we didn't really expect experiencing a pandemic in our lifetime. Nobody really prepares for that. So what really pushed me is not just a one-time big time event na hala nagka-pandemic and whatnot, but it's the culmination of small events and then this one big event. There are a lot of things happening in the world that we're living in right now, and I feel like where I am is not where I'm supposed to be anymore at this point in time. And there was parang there was also prodding in my heart. You know, I pray I pray about things. I reflect on the journey that I'm on. And I really felt that. I really saw that. And I guess that was a good thing for me, at least. Kasi parang, as I was praying to God, I thought in my heart na next year pa. So, bale around March 2021 pa, ako mag-move on from the corporate world. So, I was praying to God about it. Lalo na natakot ako na lumabas sa comfort zone ko.
Yeah.
Kasi I was already doing so well in where I was. I was just promoted to being a manager, and it was a big deal for me, especially since at that age, parang sa atin, hindi pa siya usog. And I felt some sense of parang ownership with the work that I was already doing at that time. Na parang komportable ako dito, and I really feel like I was making a difference where I was then. So parang I didn't want to let go. But I felt like God was really prodding me and pulling me to move out of my comfort zone. And sabi nga is, if you're familiar with this, hindi lang get out of the boat, but run on water. Run on water. Siguro a lot of us would resonate with this na parang nasanay tayo na parang there's been systems and parang
structure,
protocols and what have you. Structure, yes, perfect. May structure sa buhay natin since we entered the bureaucratic system ng parang schools natin. So, pagpasok mo sa school, first year, susunod, the second year, third year, fourth year. And after graduation, the very logical thing for me, and I think a lot of people around us, is to move to the corporate world. So, I never saw myself removing myself from that structure, kumbaga. So, when I did, naloka ako.
Mm.
Kasi I envisioned myself na parang, okay, at 30, I should be like this, at ganyan, nandito na
Yeah.
ako sa position na to. And at this specific point, I'm rocking it. Meron akong milestones for myself,
Mm.
financial milestones, career milestones. May structure na rin, di ba?
Yeah. In a
Kasi
way,
natatakot talaga ako.
you have a
Mm-mm.
different plan in place as compared to where you are now, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a constant trusting.
Mm.
Yung a day-to-day trusting and surrender eh. Kumpara sa
Mm.
before, because I had like an Excel file for my life.
Mm.
Ganun kalala.
It's just how you develop throughout the years, 'di ba? Kasi
Yeah.
you didn't know where God has placed you then and where God is going to take you now, right? So I think
Yeah.
it's a step by step process, girl. Kasi if ever
Exactly.
imagine at that time, medyo syempre there were times na medyo immature pa tayo, tapos bigla kang itatapon sa something really challenging.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that God knows your capabilities at every moment of your life. So, at this point in your life, ready na si Dayan. Okay, run on water. Go.
Oo.
Ready na
And
siya.
for me, talaga, as I have
Mm.
experienced God's presence in my life, God knows how to approach you where you are at that moment in time.
Yeah.
But it was crazy. It was crazy because I really saw God's faithfulness in my life at
Mm-hmm.
that time. Financially, there was a huge cut for my pay because of the pandemic. And I'm sure a
Mm-hmm.
lot of us experienced this. Marami sa atin nagka-pay cut because of how the companies were hit by the pandemic. And for me, hindi naman kasi ako masyadong big on money then. Kasi I'm really thankful for this. I was privileged then to just live in a house or live in a home where I didn't have to worry about
Yeah.
the things that people usually worry about, like what I would eat, like what I would
Mm.
wear, where I would sleep, and what have you. I recognize that I'm very privileged in that regard. Pero it also happened that at that time in our life, may mga situations that came that really rattled me to the core. And it was hit dun sa time na when God pulled me out, because it was perfectly done by God. Because my family were parang my family was hit with several diseases, illnesses, the big
Mm.
C's.
Yeah.
There was COVID, and then there was cancer, and nagkasunod-sunod sila. And it put me at the position, since ako yung panganay, it put me at the position that I had to make big choices and I had to take up big responsibilities for my family to thrive.
Mm-hmm.
Diba? Na parang it really rattled me to the core. And at that point in time, I really saw God's goodness in my life. Kasi parang I would have never been able to maybe address the things that I needed to address, both financially, time-wise, if God did not pull me out of the corporate world just in time. I was faring better financially after I moved on from the corporate world. And I had more control over the time that I had sa hands ko when I moved out. Diba? When I was already freelancing.
Mm-hmm.
So I also felt like it was a blessing in disguise. Because I know naman that, God is in control and God was the one who allowed for those things to happen. But I know naman na it was meant to develop our character, to strengthen our family, to strengthen, whatever needs to be strengthened at that point in time. Diba? Nakakatawa na ako kasi medyo nakakaraos na kami. I'm really thankful for that.
Yeah.
But at that moment in time, when you saw that me, na parang kulang na lang. Actually, hindi kulang. Talagang nakaluhod na. I was down on my knees. Pwede ba yun? Tumatakbo while you're on your knees? God was the one carrying me at that time. Kasi parang, it was so big. The finances were all on my shoulders. And hindi ko in-expect that I would be placed in that position in that age. Diba? Parang, like, kung babalik tayo dun sa ginawa kong Excel file for my life before, having this kind of parang crazy thing or life event happening sa age na to for me was totally unexpected. And I did not prepare for that. I was comfortable, kumbaga. I was already comfortable in the place where I was.
Yeah.
Na parang hindi ko na I was also in grad school then. yun nga, I like what I mentioned, I was at a very privileged position. And if you
Mhm.
are at the privileged position and you feel like you're comfortable and what have you, it's not going to force you to think about those things, yung mga talagang magrarattle sa'yo. So,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, so that is a wonderful answer. So now we go to the second question, which is, how did you deal with your fear of failure when you shifted from the path of an employee to being self-employed?
I think moving on from one place to another, no matter how big or how small that changes, is always scary. Like what I shared kanina, na God was really present in my journey. So a lot
Mm.
of prayers, definitely. And of course, introspection. Like what I said, hindi siya madaling path to travel. So there were a lot of changes. So as there were
Mhm.
a lot of changes happening outside of me, I understood in myself that there should also be changes that should happen within me. Diba? So sabay-sabay lang. Kasi if the old Diane would jump into the new situation, the old Diane might not survive. So I also had to adjust. So what did I need? For my end, I think I needed mindfulness, self-reflection, really just getting to know yourself and understanding where I am at that point in time, and also understanding myself and my capabilities.
Mhm.
Kasi for me, I think, there are a lot of us na parang extremes kung mag-isip. It's either hindi ko kaya or parang sobrang kayang-kaya ko yan na sugod lang ng sugod. I
Mhm.
think it's really all about hitting that sweet spot in the middle where you understand your limitations and you
Mhm.
also understand the things that you can do, the things that you can master, and the things that you can improve. Diba? Kasi for me, when I jumped into having my own business and being a freelancer, nakakaloka siya. To say the least, nakakaloka siya. And it required a lot of parang auditing in my life na parang, okay, sige, mayabang ka rito sa aspect na to in your life. Let's capitalize on that. Okay, this area in your life, medyo limited ka. Is this something that you think you can improve on, or is this something that you think you can let go of already? Say
Mhm.
for example, as a business person or an entrepreneur, I knew in my heart and soul that math is not for me. I knew that math is not for me. I mean, that's the reason why I convinced my dad to allow me to take fine arts instead of business, diba?
Mhm.
Yun nga, I knew my limitations and I knew that, yung mga basic things like taxes,
Wow.
invoicing, billings, and what have you. So I hired somebody to help me in that
Mhm.
aspect.
Mhm.
Syempre, hindi one time, big time. I also had to, I understood that I didn't have much capital for me
Mhm.
to immediately hire somebody to take care of that for me. So I still tried. Let me try to manage this on my own. And then nung hindi ko na talaga kaya, nung nakikita ko na it would be more beneficial for me to focus on my strengths rather than my limitations,
Mhm.
I outsourced it sa ibang tao. And it actually helped me. It propelled me forward. Kasi parang I wasn't focusing on the things that held me back, but I was putting in my efforts, putting in all of my parang all of my energies and developing the things that I needed,
Mhm.
or the things that I think would be more parang beneficial for me at this point in my life. So yeah, that was it. Mindfulness and self-reflection. Another is, building a support system. Building a support system that would really walk with you along the way. And you know that you're part of my support system. Diba? There's this cliche, you are the sum of the five people closest
Yeah.
to you. For me kasi, it's really all about managing
Yeah.
what you accept from those people. And I don't think the
Mhm.
five people lang naman. Like the people who are closest to you, allowing them to influence you in a good way. And
Yeah.
going back to what I shared a while ago, it's really na parang yung mindfulness and self-reflection. You also need to know what would be good for you. Kasi
Yes.
nobody is perfect.
Yeah.
Your support system will not provide you the entire support that you would need.
Mhm.
Parang ito yung sinasabi ko na you don't have to be everybody for other people. you shouldn't also expect people around you to be parang everybody for you.
Mm,
Kumbaga, na they would
agree.
satisfy everything
Yeah.
that you need. In the same way na ayaw mo ma-pressure ng ganun, don't put that same pressure on other people.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But I think it's just parang respectful din. Yeah, and lastly, just to move forward from that or to build on from that, is to put up boundaries around yourself.
Mm-hmm.
'Di ba? Na like what I shared a while ago na parang the fear of failure is always there. It's never gonna go away. I've been in theater kasi since I was in preschool. Oh, ang lala, no? Ang
Mm-hmm.
tanda ko na ngayon. There is no change really in the yung parang kaba before you enter the stage
Mm-hmm.
compared to parang no matter how many times you've done it. But once you're there, you just let yourself go. You just let yourself be and you embrace the awkwardness and the discomfort, 'di ba? Pero it's really that first step eh. So for
Mm.
me, just to go back, you put boundaries around yourself because there
Mm-hmm.
are gonna be people that before you take that first step, there are gonna be people who are going to pull you down, who are going to say na that's not the way to go, that's not that's not gonna work out for you,
Mm.
and they will really parang discourage you, kumbaga. And I had people like this who told me na, ano ba napapala mo dyan sa ganyan-ganyan? Parang
Mm.
sabi ko, ala, grabe ka naman. Parang hindi kasi nila nakikita they don't understand the milestones you are hitting because they've never been there. And that
Yeah,
is really
yeah.
common for Filipinos, actually. I can only speak of Filipinos because I'm a Filipino.
Mm.
I see this in Filipinos, especially Filipino families, mga titas, titos, even parents, diba? If they don't understand where you are, if they don't understand the road that you're traveling. And I know that this is also coming from area of concern or parang place of concern and love na, hala, what if you don't succeed there and whatnot.
Mm.
But you also have to understand that if that is the path that you think you are being called to travel, or that is the path you are being called to venture on, you really need to put some boundaries around yourself when it comes to not only those people but those perspectives that may
Mm.
pull you down. Either you go all in or not at all,
Yeah, yeah.
diba? It's not being a perfectionist, because for me it's always better that you do something about it rather than not do nothing at all. Pero pagdating dito kasi, kapag you are trying to move past the fear of failure, you really need to be your biggest supporter.
Yeah.
You really need to be your biggest supporter, because if you're not going to support yourself, if you're not going to believe in yourself, how can other people who are seeing you doubt yourself believe in you?
Yeah, that's so
Diba?
true. Yeah.
So, ayun yung sa akin. It's really about mindfulness, self-reflection, building a support system, and putting up boundaries around yourself
Yeah.
from negativities and the things that would bring you down. Of course, marami pang iba, but
Mm.
those are the things that I believe will really help, lalo na kung nagsisimula ka pa lang.
Mm-hmm.
And of
Yeah.
course, a lot of prayers.
Yeah.
A lot of prayers, definitely.
Yeah, that is so true. Actually, I'm really able to relate to where you are right now, because we do have the same journey. We did come from the corporate setting and now we are akalain mo, para same thing with me. I've never also expected that I would leave that path of quote unquote sureness that society puts upon being in a corporate job, right? So, in one of the
Yeah.
things that I've also realized while you were sharing was there is comfort in predictability, right? There is comfort in what you think is planned, already planned, because when you
Mm.
plan for it, you expect something that will happen exactly what you have prepared for, right?
Yes.
So being there and being pulled out to somewhere uncertain, it's normal to feel fear, especially when it comes to all of the situation that, especially that you've shared that you were in. Where can I get this? How can I support my family? Because it's really out of your control. Having that happen to your family is very much It hurts. It's painful to go through that. But at the end of the day, if you feel that, or if you are being led by God to go out and just trust Him, right? For sure, just like what you're witnessing right now, what you're experiencing right now, God continues to support you in ways that you couldn't have imagined when you were in that place of your comfort zone, right? So, one of the things also that I've realized as well is that change is inevitable. Change is inevitable and life happens. Unfortunate, that's one of the cliches, right?
Oo.
Life happens. And whatever happens in your life, you have to deal with it head on.
Mm.
Saying in a way that you have to be self-dependent, but rather considering that we are women of faith, we have to depend on someone who controls and who is the creator of everything, which is God, right? And with
Oo.
having that foundation really changes everything in such a way that even though things are unsure, even though there is a typhoon, even though there's a pandemic, even though things are out of control, you are at peace. You can never find that anywhere. No one could ever give you that peace that surpasses all understanding aside from you seeking it from God, depending on God, especially those times where you just don't know what to do. You just have to surrender and let go
Yeah,
and let God. Another cliche.
exactly.
Let God.
And
And
siguro, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And
go.
siguro just to build on what you said,
Mm.
the structure that the comfort that the structure I was in, yung
Mm-hmm.
parang the comfort that it provided me before, I realized that if I stayed there, I wouldn't really have grown this much in faith.
Yeah.
Kasi
Yeah.
compared to where I was then to where I am now, every day is really an exercise of surrender, of
Mm.
trusting. Na
Yeah.
parang, okay, Lord, ikaw ang bahala if this client will push through. Ikaw ang bahala if I would get this sale. Ikaw yung bahala if like things will work out.
Mm.
Whereas compared to being in a corporate setup, there is the security of tenure. There is the security of parang if regular ka
Salary.
na, you can't be fired easily.
Yeah.
That there is like the security of like monthly, this is what I'm going to expect.
Mm.
Or like
Yeah.
bi-monthly if you're paid
Yeah.
bi-monthly. So, parang moving outside of that, dun ko talaga naintindihan na when God gave me the parang vision. Kasi meron kaming gantong exercise ni Lord na every year there's this one big theme. And ang sabi niya sa akin talaga this year is that God-sized hope and faith. And if you really think about it, if you really parang try to quantify how big that God-sized hope is and that
Mm-hmm.
God-sized faith is, it's really different. But it's one thing for you to say that I have hope and I have faith, but when you say that it is God-sized, it's like something na parang kahit anong mangyari, nothing will tear that down because God is the
Mm.
biggest thing there is.
Mm.
Grabe thing, being. God is the biggest one there is. So
Mm.
there really is no parang pulling you down from that,
Yeah.
diba?
Yeah, I totally agree. And in line with what you also mentioned, when it comes to your faith, you call it God-sized faith, right? Mine, however,
Yeah.
is childlike faith. So in a way, when I was led from being a corporate setup to now being my own boss in a way and seeking other opportunities that I've never imagined also before that I would be able to do, like being able to buy and sell. And considering I'm an introvert, God told me, Mia, just trust me. You don't know where I'm going to take you. So just trust me because you don't know how much I will bless you if you just simply obey. And now that even if I'm struggling financially, everything's taken care of for me. I don't, just like you, I don't have to worry about where I sleep. I don't have to worry about whether I would run out of food. Also, with what you have mentioned about people who discourage you, it's understandable that some people have that motive of just simply looking out for you. Of, are
Mhm.
you sure you want to take that path? It's gonna be challenging. You're gonna suffer. You're gonna the number one thing, you're gonna fail, right? You're gonna fail in all other reasons. And simply because they're actually, I don't doubt those intentions of people of they're just simply looking out for you. But again, at the end of the day, what you mentioned earlier, they don't know your calling. Because whatever you decide in your life, the consequence will simply be on you, not on them. So it's
Yeah.
very hard for you to just simply listen to other people, especially when it is about doubt, when it is about fear, when it is about all the negative stuff. Well, I completely understand, especially with family, that they're there for you. They care for you, they
Mhm.
love you. That's understandable. But at the end of the day, whatever I decide, the consequences, I am the only one who will be able to bear that. Whether I fail or succeed, that's on me, right? I'm not saying that I'm self reliant, but rather I'm trusting that where God is leading me, that is where I will go. Because at the end of the day,
Exactly.
the reason why I'm here is
Ikaw yung
because of God.
apektado eh.
Yeah,
Yes,
at the same time,
definitely.
right? And
Oo.
your journey is not about being selfish or not considering other people. You are. Because the reason why you're working so hard, like what you did, the way you were led from being an employee to now being your own boss, being self-employed, you are now are able to help a lot of people as compared to you
Yeah.
just being in your corporate job. Now you have more control over how much you'll get. And at the same time, that is in relation to how God is blessing you in your obedience,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah. Oo. And I think, like what you just reminded me of how
Mm,
many people we were able to employ, we were
mm,
able to outsource from, whom we were also able to bless
yeah.
this time when parang finances are tight. And it really just parang warms my heart to be reminded of that, na parang there are a lot of people who have been struggling, and I was actually able to hire people to help us out in the business, and we
Mm,
were able to bless them mismo. So I guess that was also another reason why God pulled me here, to also bless other people. And I guess for
mm,
me, it's really not just living for yourself. It's also living for other people. And that's what motivated me to continuously move out of my comfort zone and
mm,
just move past my fear of failure. Kasi if you are put in a situation na parang it's do or die. Grabe naman do or die.
mm,
But it's all or nothing, 'di ba? Lalo na if you have been put in a position na parang naging breadwinner ka, na the next month would really rely on what you would be getting this month. It's really something that would push you, encourage you to innovate, encourage you to think
mm,
outside of the box and run outside of the box. 'Di ba?
mm.
So,
Yeah,
ayun sa akin. And it's really something, it's a good reminder too. So
yeah,
thank you for that, Mia.
yeah,
Love it.
yeah. And at the same time, while you were also sharing that, you also helped me be reminded of the things that you shared before when you were starting off this journey. Right? It's understandable that God is there, but at the end of the day, you still have to do your responsibility. You still have to apply what God has given you, like the time, talents, and treasures that He has entrusted to you. You have to apply that in such a way that I'm sure that when you started, you failed a lot. Actually, failure is actually inevitable. Failure is actually necessary to
Oo.
succeed as well. And the reason why we're talking about this, it doesn't mean that we have already arrived to our full potential. I believe that one of the questions that you asked me before we started this podcast, are we really going to talk about this topic? Because I haven't arrived yet. I'm still trying to figure it all out. And at the same with me, I'm also trying to figure it all out with everything in the podcast, everything about trying to talk or trying to tell a story. It's all a struggle for me up until this point, even when I've already had that experience. But every single day, you experience new things. And with those new things and the unfamiliarity of it all, you have to know that you will fail. And when you do accept that fact, you have to fail in a way that when you fail, you have to use that learning of your failure to improve yourself, for you to understand that, okay, this is something that I did wrong. So how can I make it right?
Mm-hmm.
How can I do something that will help me not repeat this mistake so that I can be better, so that I can help other people, how I can give value to people, how I'm able to share that experience who are also a struggle to other people, that will help them become better, that will help them, especially during this hard time, right? So in a way, you are sharing those gifts, those talents that God has given you to give comfort to others, to give others that
Oh.
sense of freedom, that sense of courage, that sense of, like what you mentioned earlier, the fear of failure will never go away. But rather, the only thing that can deal with that is you should act on it, right? Regardless of what
Mm-hmm.
you feel, like in theater, regardless of what you feel, you still have to perform.
Too good.
Yeah, you
Oh.
still have to be on that stage. You still have to deliver your lines. You still have to deliver the emotions, how you are able to tell the story, because people are looking at you. And at the same time, being women of faith, action speaks louder than words. Again, another
Mm.
another well-known
Cliche.
yeah, another cliche. So it's better for you to practice what you say than you just saying it. Just
Like
simply,
modeling.
yeah, modeling,
Model
exactly.
it.
You
Exactly.
model, right? Whatever you say, you practice
Mm-mm.
it, right? Whatever you
Modeling is
say,
the best,
yeah,
the best
that's
teacher, diba?
yes,
Like
yeah.
how Jesus lived his life. His
Mm,
best lessons can be seen in how he lived his life and not just how he preached or what have you, diba?
exactly,
So
exactly. So
totally
Jesus is
agree.
really the perfect model for us, the perfect example.
Siguro what I was able to pick up from what you said,
Mm,
it's really all about, I love what you mentioned when you said na it's really accepting that failure is there, that
mm,
the possibility of failing is there. And for me, honestly, since we focused a lot on the wins, a lot of the successes, I think we should also shed light on the nights na parang I was already down on my knees praying to God na
mm,
parang, shocks, I
yeah,
lost this sale, shocks, I didn't get this client. Na kailangan talaga may tiyaga ka. Kailangan talaga that you continuously put a brave face to face the new day. Kasi
mm,
it's not always gonna work out. It's not
yeah,
always going to go the way that you wanted it to go. But like what you shared, it's all about learning from each of the failure that you experience, diba? And that's parang for me, that's how you recalibrate your idea of what failing is. But seeing parang failure as a learning experience. And when
yeah,
you see it as
yeah,
a learning experience, I see that as a win
yeah,
instead of it being a failure. Parang, okay, I failed here, but I did not go down. It's just one step ahead because I'm
mm,
better than the person I was prior
yeah,
to who I am now. So
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
competition sa sarili mo, not
yeah,
a competition to everyone around you. And I think that lessens the pressure that you put on yourself.
yeah, yeah,
And
and
I
I,
think
yeah. Miss Universe talaga. Yeah, and again, going back to having that childlike faith, because you know how children are. Whenever they make a mistake or whenever they trip or they fall down, they just get back up and continue on what they're doing, right? And they
yeah.
don't mope around, okay, I fell down. Now what am I gonna do? What did I do? In a way, they're not overthinking it. However, they're just simply doing what they feel like, what they want to do, what they will give them joy, what they think are curious about. And I think that's one of the
Mhm.
things also that we have to also love the process of wanting to learn new things every single day, regardless if you don't know how to do it, regardless if you don't have the skill yet, right? Because I'm sure that
Yeah.
when with you, you're very conscious about how you're able to talk. You're very conscious how you're able to present yourself in front of the camera and how you're gonna set up the camera in order for you to have a live stream, right? You have to learn
Mhm.
all of those things in order for you to get to where you are right now. So my
Yeah.
point is exactly, we are all a work in progress. We are all dealing with the fear of failure. We are all dealing with uncertainty. We're all dealing with lack, right? Because
Yeah.
every single day, you really have to learn new things. You have to adjust, you have to deal with the unpredictability that life throws at you, even when you try to prepare for those unpredictable moments, right? For as long as you are preparing, for as long as you are trusting in God, for as long as you continue on having that motive to not just simply live for yourself, but rather looking out for the good of other people, then yeah, I mean that helps. So to end the podcast episode, I would like to ask you the final question, which is what encouraging word or sentence would you want to share with those who are listening to the podcast right now?
It's really all about respecting your momentum,
Mm.
respecting your momentum, respecting your timeline. And like what I shared a while ago, na don't try to see other people's successes or the things that you're hearing around you, especially sa social media, because social
Yeah.
media only highlights the high points and barely highlights the low points of people's lives. Because who
Mm.
would want to do that, right? So see other people's successes as mere inspiration that would parang encourage you to work on your own, because only you and of course God can parang set your life in motion.
Yeah.
And if you would be parang ridden with all of those pressures na parang hala, at this point in time I should be this, at this point in time I should
Yeah.
already have this and that, for me, it would paralyze you. And this is me speaking from experience
Yeah.
na not everybody kasi would publish. publish. Not everybody would talk about the failures that they encountered prior to the successes that they are posting on social media. So focus on your own journey, focus on your own path, and
Yeah.
you would see, diba? Na parang like what I mentioned a while ago, you should be your number one supporter, because if not, how would other people support you? All right. So for all of those who are listening, so again, guys, I am D or Dayan. You can check us out in LinkedIn. Wow, LinkedIn as Overs. Yes, O-VERSE. Parang online universe. Ang taray, no? Ako nag-isip niyan. All right, it's Overs. And we are still setting up the business. But if you are looking for somebody or people who would help you out in your e-commerce on Lazada, and we're also venturing already on helping organizations in their team buildings and what have you, so providing manpower for that, for mga facilitators and whatnot, you can hit us up. So you can go to Overs in LinkedIn, and if ever that you would want to hit me up personally for my services, my marketing services, or just consultancy, you can hit me up in dayanglikha at gmail.com. Or you can just run through my website, www.dayanglikha.com. Thanks.
Thank you, Dan. We appreciate you and I appreciate you so much. So, thank you everyone. Bye.